Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video, which is another Halloween video where I'm going to be painting all of these little clay ghosts and figures that I made just in time for spooky season. So first we're going to be creating one, that way you know how to do it too. I'm going to be using parchment paper, air dry clay, and of course some little clay tools, but you can make do with your fingers and with some toothpicks and things like that. But now let's get right into the clay and create a fun, cute clay ghost. I made all of my ghosts and figures out of Crayola air dry clay, so now I'm getting a big chunk of that, and we're going to try and imitate this ghosty here, just this plain one. I've also made a mushroom little ghost, as well as some cat ghosts, so you can get really creative and even make cursed little ghosts like this one. And anyway, it was time to start making a ghost. So what I did was just grab a significant chunk of clay and roll it between my fingers till I got a ball shape, and then I kind of narrowed it out a little bit so it was more of a potato looking shape, and then I flattened out the sides to create almost a head for the ghost, and then I pushed it down to make sure that it would stand up and added in a little bit of a cloth shape at the end by smushing it down. And then I'm using this needle tool to make eyes for the ghost, but you can draw them in or you can use a toothpick. And then after that I'm using that same tool to create lines and folds in the ghost's little fabric body, and then after that it is complete, unless you want to go wild and add in some accessories, which I definitely chose to do. I've been really wanting to make a little ghost with a cowboy hat for some reason, so that is what I'm doing. I just started by making a little flat disc and shaping it into the form of a cowboy hat brim, and then after that it was time to make the actual hat cap part. So then I just made a little square of it and stacked that right on top and made sure it was in the right place before I secured it by just smushing it down onto the ghost and making sure that it was secure. And here is Noodle, the cowboy ghost. Not really sure what his story is, but I'm going to paint him later. And here it is next to one that's already dry. The mushroom on the left is dry, and the ghost has to wait about 3 to 5 days to be completely dry before it can be painted. So now let's get to painting the other ones that are already dry. So as you can tell, I had a whole session where I made a bunch of these little figures for Halloween, and here they all are waiting in line to be painted. And up first we have the mushroom and the baby. So here they come up, and let's see who is going to go first. It looks like the mom volunteered. How brave. And now I'm going to be making the top of this mushroom red. Such a classic mushroom color that I had to go with it. So first I just started off by giving the mom an entire coat of red paint on top, and then I set that one to the side to dry the first coat, and now it's time to work on the baby mushroom. So for the baby mushroom I wanted to incorporate red just like the mom's color, but then I also wanted to give an ombre effect of some yellow. Maybe that's the dad's color, we don't know the story. But anyway, then I went ahead and did this ombre effect of kind of a red to orange color, and then it was time for the second coat for both of them, just to make sure the colors were laying really flat and were really solid. And I tried to make the yellow ombre pop a little bit more in the baby mushroom. And then after that I wanted to do the underneath part of the mushroom. You know the underneath part of the mushroom, it looks kind of frilly and a little bit scary, so I was trying to emulate that by adding in some white strokes, and then I did the same thing to the baby mushroom to match the mom. And then it was time to add some adorable little polka dots all over the top of the big mushroom, which I'm going to add to the baby later just because I think it is so cute. And after that it was time to actually paint the ghost. So I decided to paint the ghost white, maybe obviously, but I do some fun colors later. And then after that I painted the baby as well to make sure it matched the mom mushroom perfectly, and I was loving how they turned out. Here is Bob, the simple ghost, and so I decided to paint this one white, but it was kind of too simple, so I added in a little bit of red to make some pink. Next up we've got cat ghost number 1 and then cat ghost number 2, and I just gave them both a little coat of white before adding on the final dots for the baby mushroom, that way it can match its mom. And of course added in some cute little ghost blush because it just makes everything so much cuter. I mean, look at that little blushing baby mushroom. And now it's time to paint some of the ghost accessories. So first up I have this broom for the witch ghost, which you haven't seen yet but you will soon. And now I'm painting the broom with this yellow color, and I decided to dry brush it with a little bit of white and just a whole bunch of different shades of color to really make some of the features and details that I put into it pop. And here is the witch ghost, which is very cool, and I think her name is going to be Sapphire because I painted her blue. So I'm going ahead and just adding in this very light blue coat all over the ghost, and then this happened while I was painting the hat, which was a little bit sad, but yeah, the hat kind of broke off, which I knew was a risk. When you're working with air dry clay in my skill set, it's bound to happen at some point. Makes me a little nervous for Noodle the cowboy ghost, but anyway, I added the blush nonetheless, and then I went ahead and I discovered that adding in some black paint into the eye sockets made them a lot more scary and a little more ghosty, so I decided why not do that to every single one of them. So I added in black to every single one, and then it made them look way cooler and way more detailed. I even added in some black into the broom to try and make it pop a little bit more in the lines and designs, and then that really made a huge difference, so I just kept doing it until all of them were done. I mean, this one looked extra scary when it was done, and then after that I decided to kind of go along with that same technique and add in some black to the pumpkin, but now I'm jumping back to the witch hat once it was dry, and I decided to, in a wizard fashion, add in a whole bunch of gold stars to really make the entire hat pop, and I'm glad it popped off because it was a lot easier to paint that way. But now it's time for some of the other accessories, which are pumpkins. So for this one I decided to obviously keep it in orange pumpkin, but I added in some red to create some varying shades everywhere, and I even painted its little tushy to really make sure I filled in all of the details. And now it's time to paint the pumpkin bucket, which immediately broke, so there's that. If you believe in bad omens, well, there's one. I don't, but if you do, there you go. And then I went ahead and started painting the pumpkin bucket. So now it's time to start filling in the black details first. So I obviously did the face details first, which is one of my favorite parts about this one and one of my favorites in general. And then I decided to paint it a little more off screen for you guys, that way you could get a really good look of it. And then after that I added in some orange and tried to emulate the same thing that I did with the first pumpkin because I think that one turned out really well. So I added in some orange and then some red, and then I went back over it and decided to make sure everything was really neat and detailed. And then I added in even more red to really make sure that it popped and was cool. And then after that it was completed. I tried to make some candy on the top with some different colors, but it didn't really work out. But the front looks awesome, so that's what we're going to focus on, and I think it turned out so cool. And now it's time for the last little pumpkin that I have, but I wanted to do a spin with this one. So with this one I added in some red, and I wanted to make it a pink pumpkin, so I added in some red and then a lot of white to tone out the red, and then I added in even more white later because it was too red, but then it was too pink, so I added in some orange. And yeah, and then I did it off screen again for you guys, and now it's time for the cursed candy corn ghost. It's mostly cursed because of how it looks and because I started painting it and I painted the candy corn in the wrong order at first, so I had to look it up and change it to make sure I was doing it right. It's white, then orange, then yellow. Not a cool ombre effect at all. It's kind of all chopped up. But anyway, why is it a cursed candy corn ghost? I'm not really sure. It's a ghost because that just seems more cursed, but I mean, just look at it. Like, something is definitely going on there. But anyway, now it is time to varnish all of these little ghosties after the paint has dried. So first up, I'm varnishing the baby mushroom, and let's just say that it had some challenges. Oh, let's just give that one a moment to lie there for a second. Anyway, I wanted to varnish all of them to make sure that they were super glossy and to make sure the paint did not go anywhere. So after the baby had a traumatic varnishing experience, then I went ahead and varnished the mom mushroom and the cursed candy corn and just continued to do all of the ghosts and all of the accessories until they were all completely varnished and looking super shiny and glossy. And I think they were looking so good, and this top coat just made all of them look so complete and finished, and like final pieces that you might actually be able to get from a store, which I thought was so cool. I of course glued the witch's hat back on and then varnished all of that. Thankfully the gel pen didn't smear, and then to get a second coat I just pushed them around, but here they all are, and I think they turn out so cool. I have them all up on my mantle and shown off, and I think they are just such fun Halloween and spooky season decorations. I think they all turn out so much fun, but I'd love to hear which one is your favorite. And just remember, I still have to paint Noodle the Ghost, so follow along because I'll paint him on shorts. But here is Bob the Ghost, which isn't pink anymore, Mushroom Ghost and Baby Ghost. We've got pumpkins and Witch Ghost. Of course, we've got the pumpkin bucket and this very cursed candy corn ghost. I've also got the 2 cat ghosts, and finally the pink and orange pumpkin. Let me know which one of these is your favorite, and I think they turn out so cool. Thanks for watching, happy Halloween, and watch out for this guy.